The United States is currently running a $1.9 trillion federal deficit this year, a staggering number. That is approximately 5.8% of the entire American economic output, a massive financial hole. Think of this deficit as a kitchen sink that is overflowing. The water is our national spending. The drain is our tax revenue. Right now, the faucet is wide open and the drain is clogged with interest. We aren't in a recession. We aren't in a world war. Yet, we are spending like the floor is on fire. This is the largest peacetime deficit as a percentage of the economy since World War II. Discipline is gone. So the real question isn't, is the debt too big? It is, who is still willing to fund the overflow? Welcome to Voice on Pages, where we decode the capital and institutions shifting the world beneath the headlines. U.S. debt has officially climbed above $38 trillion, a number that has broken normalcy. The debt-to-GDP ratio now stands at around 124%, uncharted territory. Interest payments alone hit $971 billion last year, more than we spend on defense. This is like having a credit card where the interest is now more than your rent and groceries combined. The government is now paying more than $11 billion in interest every single week. Interest already consumes 22% of federal revenue. Every fifth tax dollar goes to the past. When interest becomes your fastest growing expense, you're not managing debt. You're compounding it. Imagine the global debt market as a massive party. For decades, foreign investors were the guests of honor. Foreign investors currently hold $9.1 trillion, roughly 25% of the total. China once held over $1 trillion. Today, they have cut that back significantly. The era of their dominance is over. Japan remains the largest at $1.2 trillion, but the guest of honor is starting to head for the exit. So if the big foreign buyers are leaving the party, who is left to absorb these trillions in new issuance? Even the Federal Reserve, the host, has stepped back, shrinking its own balance sheet by trillions. The gap was filled domestically by U.S. households and banks. They are the ones now carrying the weight. But these domestic entities are now near their post-2000 portfolio peaks. They are heavily loaded. In simple terms, the domestic system is absorbing the debt, but it may be reaching its absolute ceiling. And when capacity runs out, yields must rise to attract the next dollar. This is the financial physics. Think of the Federal Reserve as walking a tightrope over a pit of fire and a pit of spikes. No room for error. From 1942 to 1951, they suppressed rates to fund the war. They walked the line. But when the policy was abandoned, inflation reached 18%. That is the fire pit that haunts them. Now the viewer feels the no-win scenario, either a debt crisis from high rates or an inflation crisis. Outright default is unthinkable. But stealth default through negative real rates? It is the silent tax. Imagine the dollar's status as a club membership. To trade global goods, you must pay your dues in dollars. Petrodollar recycling was the engine of the 20th century. It forced artificial demand for treasuries. But with the rise of BRICS, a rival club is forming. That artificial demand is facing its first challenge. Central banks are buying gold at a record pace. They are trading paper promises for the reality of gold. Think of this debt as an inheritance we are leaving to our children, a bill they never signed for. This is the crowding out effect. Debt is absorbing the capital that should be building their future. The world has proven that U.S. deficits can run. The question is, for how long? That is the real story. Thank you for your support. If you value this deep dive, consider buying me a coffee via the link below. Subscribe to stay informed as the world shifts. I will see you in the next analysis. Stay analytical. Think of the repo market as the leaking plumbing of the global economy. It's hidden, but it keeps the capital flowing. When liquidity dries up, the entire machine grinds to a halt. The Fed is now just keeping the pipes from bursting. American innovation is the golden goose of the global economy, but the debt wolf is slowly starving it. Every dollar spent on interest is a dollar not spent on the next breakthrough. We are trading our future. Extending existing tax provisions could add $4.5 trillion to deficits by 2035. To stabilize this debt, the U.S. would need a 5% surplus of GDP, a feat that seems impossible today. We are approaching the turning point, the moment where the mechanics can no longer hide the reality of the math. The world has proven that U.S. deficits can run. The question is, for how long? That is the truth of the system. Thank you for your support. If you value this deep dive, consider supporting us via the link below. Stay analytical. Subscribe to stay informed as the world shifts. I will see you in the next analysis. Thank you for watching. We must also consider the role of other global central banks. As the US expands its balance sheet, the ripples are felt in every corner of the world. This ripple effect forces nations to choose between following the dollar's lead or seeking alternatives that offer more stability. De-dollarization is no longer a fringe theory. It is a strategic movement by major economies to insulate themselves from US fiscal gravity. Alternate payment systems are being built in real time, bypassing the traditional SWIFT system and reducing the artificial demand for treasuries. Gold is returning to the center of the global stage. It is the only reserve asset that doesn't carry another nation's liability. Central banks are buying gold at levels not seen in decades. They are trading the promise of a dollar for the certainty of gold. The only real hedge against this systemic weight is innovation, the ability to create more value than the interest consumes. But innovation requires capital that is increasingly being sucked away to pay for the mistakes of the past. The stakes couldn't be higher. As we reach the turning point, the fundamental question remains: who is left to carry the weight of an empire built on debt? The world has proven that US deficits can run. The question is, for how long? That is the real story of our time. Stay analytical. Thank you for watching this deep dive. Your support keeps these masterclasses possible. I will see you in the next analysis. Global trust is the ultimate collateral for the US dollar. It is not built on gold anymore, but on the perceived stability of the American system. Trust is hard to build and easy to break. Once the world suspects that the collateral is insufficient, the rush for the exit begins. We cannot ignore the military component. The dollar is backed by the world's most powerful military, which ensures the safety of the global trade lanes. This strategic depth provides a level of security that alternate systems currently cannot match. It is the silent partner of the Treasury. As global resources become scarcer, the burden of debt becomes even more significant. Nations will fight for control of real assets over paper wealth. The shift toward real assets like energy, minerals, and land is already underway. The age of purely financial wealth is ending. We are witnessing the ultimate turning point in the global financial order. The math is simple, but the consequences are profound. The world has proven that US deficits can run. The question is, for how long? Decoding the system is the only way to navigate the shift. Thank you for joining this masterclass. Your support ensures we can continue these analytical deep dives. Stay analytical. Subscribe to stay ahead of the world shifting beneath the headlines. I will see you in the next analysis. Thank you for watching.